And welcome to our May edition of Sports Highlights. So glad you're with us. Our program since February of 1992. Greg Bicovaris and the entire crew. And we have great guests on for you today. Trenton Boykin, the head football coach at Hampton University, and David Gary, the head track and field coach at Woodside High School. Our show comes on Mondays at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. Weekends at 9 a.m. on Cox Cable 47, 517, NNPSTV.com, and all over social media as well. Let's welcome Trenton. Trenton, good to see you.
Oh, man, thank you for having me.
Ohio roots, so this is right up my alley,
yes,
of course.
Yes.
You went to Youngstown State,
yes, sir.
But talk about before, how did you get involved in football at a young age?
Grew up in a big family. My cousin Charlie Boykin was a big basketball guy. Greg Boykin actually played with O.J. Simpson when they were at the 49ers. Stan Boykin, there was a lot of Boykins that, played football. So I kind of grew up in a big family. So, probably 5 years old, I started playing football at that age. But really just all sports, football, basketball, baseball, ran track. So kind of did a little bit of everything.
It's so funny, too, because my mom went to Ohio State. And, of course, my dad and mom got married in Columbus, but a lot of my friends that went to Ohio schools like Toledo or Akron, they were always said, yeah, you can go to that school and do all you want, but let's not forget who the big dad is in the state of Ohio. That's Ohio State. So is that true that a lot of the kids, even when you were in high school, well before you went to Youngstown State, would see players in the 80s and the 90s, and that would influence you to always be an Ohio State fan?
Oh, yeah. The football, again, you have those debates of Florida and Texas and those places. And, we look at Ohio is right up there with the best of them. And so, to see, what Ohio State was doing, winning, how they were winning and playing in the Big Ten and the Rose Bowl and all that kind of stuff, you felt like, man, to play for your home state, you're just as good as everybody else that's out there in the country.
Yeah, some of the places that Coach Boykin has been at Tiffin, obviously Youngstown State, Ball State, Lane, Lambeth, Wayne State, Akron. He's been an assistant at HU, of course, all over, different types of schools, different types of conferences. You've been at the big schools, the medium schools, and the small schools.
Yeah.
Talk about some of your experiences.
I started off at a NAIA school, and really Otterbein College was right outside of Columbus, Ohio. And kind of cut my teeth there and was able to GA at Akron for a year, and went to Boston College and GA'd again, and then kind of got my shot at Tiffin as my first really full-time job, and then just kind of kept fighting up the ladder to keep growing. And again, I always just kind of got into it because I just loved being able to coach young men and teach them about life and just some things that I've been through. So just kind of stayed the course, kept my head down and kept grinding, and just kind of took me into different places, and then had an opportunity to coach with Coach Tressel his last year at Youngstown State before he left to go to Ohio State, and stayed on 2 more years there with Coach Haycock, and then left and went to Ball State with Brady Hoke and was on his staff, and then we had an opportunity to become an offensive coordinator, and took that opportunity at Kentucky State, and then was there for 3 years, and then had a chance to be a head coach at Lane College down in Jackson, Tennessee. Was there for 2 years, and then went to Wayne State in Michigan, and was a running back coach there, special teams, and played for D2 national championship there, and then got a call from Terry Broughton, and said, hey, looking to bring a hometown guy back home. Would you be interested in coming back to this part of the country and coaching our running backs? And jumped on the opportunity to be involved with him. And, everybody knows his dad and Terry, and then you had Terrell Buckley on that staff, and you had some great coaches on that staff. So I spent 7 years coaching at the University of Akron, and it was just a great opportunity. And then, an opportunity came to come here, and had been visiting Virginia forever. My brother is from Virginia Beach. He was kind of in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. He's been here for 25 years, so I was coming here, visiting him and his family forever, and I always said, man, this would be a great place to live, and the opportunity presented itself, and I jumped on, and here I am 5 years later still doing it.
Yeah, and you're a good example to tell the young people about adversity too, because you've had to live in a lot of different places.
Yes.
Some people only move once or twice in their life. You've been in the suitcase more than anybody.
Yes.
And that's not easy. Number one, you got to pay bills on the road. You got to do different things, get used to city life, county life, big cities, small cities, and that's a way of life, and that's sometimes people can't handle it. And not to mention, you got to coach a team as well.
Yes. I think the biggest thing is it's your testimony, and you get to give that testimony to these young men about adversity, the ups and downs, the dedication, the hard work, the sacrifices, all those things that come along, in this profession, but you also doing it in life, and that's kind of what you try to teach at these young men, that hey, what we're doing in football is kind of a mirror of what you're going to get in life as well.
And you had a lot of close games this past year.
Yes.
Talk about mirror of life. I mean, those were the games that you lost, could have gone either way.
Yes.
You won several solid games too. Talk about your 24 team recap before we talk about 25.
To get the job in May, and you kind of, you're just, you're swimming upstream, but that you got to get the job done. I thought our guys did a great job of kind of accepting the challenge, because again, for those guys too, all of a sudden you get a new head coach, which I had already been there, but it was, I think the transition was a little smooth because I had already been there. Majority of the coaches, I think we only hired 3 new coaches at the time, so you had a good amount of coaches still on the staff. But I thought our guys rose to the challenge, took everything that we were trying to do, made some changes and some things, but really just kind of took it head on and fought hard, had great discipline. And I think when you give yourself, when you fight hard and you have discipline and you want to have that brotherhood, I know a lot of things they talked about kind of at the end, it was just they felt like, man, this was a brotherhood. And so when you put that out there like that, I think you can have the success that we did, with everything that happened so fast. And so, this year is just going to kind of build on to that, kind of where we kind of took off. We're excited about this upcoming season and what we're going to have.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yes,
we're not trying to race the summer here. We want to enjoy the nice beach weather. That was one of the reasons he moved down here. But you did beat Norfolk State last year. You got some nice wins over Virginia Union, and of course Howard, Elon, North Carolina A&T. Some tough losses against Villanova and Richmond that could have gone either way, and some other schools. But the whole Michael Vick thing, people have to realize he's just a coach. But people always ask me this. He doesn't have nowhere the experience you do, or a lot of these coaches, and it's going to take a while for him to get in that mode, because he's been, whether a commentator or just being himself, football is a way of life, and you've known that since you were with Coach Tressel.
Yes, I'm excited for him, for the opportunity. When I was telling people before, he has a lot to offer.
Yeah.
I'm sure. For a fact, he's going to have some coaches around him that that have done it. It's not so much has he done it or not have done it, but he's going to put a staff together of guys who have been doing it for a while, and so I'm sure he'll lean on those guys early. Again, great player. I remember watching him play, so he's going to have some things to give to those young men. From what he did as a player, just his life itself, and rely probably on his assistant coaches and coordinators to the X and O's part of it. But I'm sure he'll have some footprints on how they do some things. So, like anything, you surround yourself with a good group of men and rely on those guys to kind of do that. And then, as he gets his feet wet, you'll see more of his blueprint on that program.
Of course, they're in the MEAC. You guys are in the CAA, and you're good friends with Coach London in the Wayne area as well. And, of course, it takes a village. You have to have good assistants. You have to have good people on your staff. You've known that because you've been at so many places. The head coach and the assistants have to be aligned, just like the players, and congratulations. Your players did excellent academics, some of the best in the country last year.
Yeah, well, that goes to everybody. Like you said, it takes a village, and our academic support staff has been outstanding. Our coaches have been outstanding, and our players have bought in. You have to, they have to buy in as well. They understand that we take that serious. I tell our guys all the time, I'll be more disappointed if you miss a class than if you miss a tackle.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, football is going to come and go. The academics is going to be forever. So, they understand how I feel about them, doing well and achieving well. And I give them my testimony that, I was blessed. I probably wasn't the greatest student first coming out of high school, but once I understood the importance of it, once I got to college, I was like, I'm not going to mess this opportunity up. So of everybody, like I said, it does take everybody to achieve that type of goal. And so, hats off to everyone.
And sports is a way of life, too. Those little things can end up being a loss. They grind on the coach more than anybody because you think about it. Some of those games you could have won. It was the little habits.
Yes.
The habits that are formed in April, May, and June can be the difference in closing the game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, of course. Again, getting the job in May the 1st, our guys were gone 13 days later. They were out of school. So, they were gone until June 9th. So, there was a month that they weren't there, and then, you're jumping right into it. So now we've had a chance to go through, camp, a season, winter conditioning, spring ball, summer again, and then the season again. So those little nuances that we kind of missed on, this previous year, we can now kind of harp on those and really focus on those things.
How does the NIL and the portal affect you at your level?
It can, if you allow it to. Everybody has their approach on how they want to recruit. We're going to focus 70% of our guys that we signed were high school guys. I think you have to know who you are, to get some of these top recruits that enter the portal. They're looking for money. Not everybody has that kind of money to go out and give 12, 13, 14, 15 guys that kind of money. And so, we look at what we have to offer and say, hey, what is the best approach for us? And, for us, it's going to still be recruit the high school young man who, has that passion to play. I think there's a lot of great high school players that get overlooked because of the portal now and people trying to have to win, right now, and they're getting paid big money. And so they got to produce right now, with our AD and our president. I appreciate them dearly, the fact that they know that, hey, you may have to build it a little different way and be a little bit patient. But I think there's a lot of great high school players out there in this area. We're going to recruit the DMV. We're going to recruit North Carolina. And there's a lot of good football just in that little region right there. So it does affect you some, but I don't think it's going to be as major for us because of how we approach our recruiting style.
Yeah, great teams here on both sides of the water and throughout the state. You'll be on 64 and 95 a lot. Not too far away from Jackson State, Coach. You got Norfolk State coming up October 4th, but what do you know about Jackson State?
Well, they just won the championship. Great coaches, great players. They pride themselves of being the best. We always want to play versus the best. So, I know a lot of people talk about the Norfolk State game, but shoot, the first game of the season is a big game for us. Our thing is the next game is the biggest game, and so that is our next game. And you watch them on film, and they got players running all over the place on the field. Like I said, the coaches, they got great coaching staff. So we'll be ready to play. This gonna be a great one.
Yeah, the first game is always months and months away. Well, the second game is only a week away. But all the best to you, and thank you for your time and your talent and your treasure. You've had a great career as an assistant coach and as a head coach, and now you're sharing that wisdom with the young men at Hampton.
I appreciate you having me.
Very good. My pleasure. That was Trenton Boykin, the head football coach at Hampton University. It will be his second full year as a head coach. He's been an assistant at a lot of different places. I want to thank Mr. Ballweg as well. Stay tuned for our next guest, David Gary, the head track and field coach at Woodside High School, as sports highlights will roll on for the month of May. Stay tuned.
You're watching NNPS TV. Catch sports highlights on Mondays at 7, 2, and 7, and on Saturdays and Sundays at 9 a.m. Visit us online at nnpstv.com to view all your favorite episodes. NNPS TV, watching education happen.
I've been rising up and advancing in my classes.
I've been rising up to be the best student athlete I can be.
I'm rising up as a leader in my school.
I'm rising up to prepare for my future career.
We are all rising up and preparing ourselves for success, thanks to our dedicated teachers and staff in Newport News Public Schools.
Rise up!
And welcome back to the Virginia High School 1600-meter state championship. As we get back to the action, we see Miles Monpoint is gaining on Antonio Boyd for the first place finish. Oh! Miles Monpoint just tripped Antonio Boyd.
But Trayvon is helping him up right now.
Trayvon is helping him up, as Trayvon just sacrificed his third place finish to help out Antonio Boyd.
Yeah, that right there is kindness and excellent sportsmanship right there by Trayvon.
And welcome to our second segment of our May edition of Sports Highlights. Glad you're with us. My name is Greg Bicaveras. Hope you enjoyed our first guest, Trenton Boykin. It's a pleasure now to welcome David Gary. He's the head track and field coach at Woodside High School in Newport News, one of our 5 high schools. Good to see you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for having me on.
And you got a varied background. You're from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and you spent 20 years in the service in the Navy. Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much, sir.
What did you learn in the Navy about discipline to help you with coaching today?
Navy was very well. It was very enlightening for me. When I went into the Navy, they taught me how to become a better man. They taught me more discipline than what I had before I came in, which I give to my parents. They gave me discipline also. But the Navy, it opened my eyes. It taught me how to do more for myself, like washing clothes, just keeping everything clean, and just life lessons. I can say life lessons because it took me different places also.
Because when we're teenagers, 18 years old, we're all over the place. I mean, so usually there's high school, there's college, there's a job afterwards maybe, there's military, or, like we said, college, master's degree, whatever.
Yes.
When you're in the Navy or the Army or the Air Force or whatever service, you are taught discipline from day one.
Yes, sir. I'm taught discipline, and I think that has a lot to do with my coaching. With discipline, I've been taught. I try to hold my athletes accountable for the same things.
Right.
And the discipline, like I say, is above and beyond. And I thank those that taught me discipline so that I can share with others and get them on the same track as me.
Well, track and field's pretty broad at any school. Woodside High School, there's cross country, then there's indoor track and outdoor track. Let's talk about all the track that you oversee.
Okay, I oversee the indoor and outdoor track. I have a distance coach on my team, which I allow him to oversee the cross-country part of it. Because during that time, I am also a football coach at that time on the varsity level. So I turned it over to him because I trust him, and I trust that he would do with the program what I would do with the program. So by doing that, we're able to communicate, and the things that I can't see in cross-country, he brings to me to the indoor, and I put it all together in the indoor so we can accomplish our goals and move forward to the outdoor when that comes.
Talk about your football experience. How many places have you been an assistant, and what did you do in this past year of staff?
My football take place in football. Well, if you want to go back to when I was in the military, even before that. In high school, I played at a school called Parkinson High School. I played there and got my feet wet in football. And let me go back a little bit further. I started with the little tiny league when I was about, say, 7 years old. And I played all the way up until I expired out. Then I went into high school. Went into high school football. I played that for a while. And then my coaches were like, "You're kind of small, you know. You might want to look at something else," which I appreciate them giving me that guidance. Because when I looked at something else, I got into track and field. And when I got into track and field, I was doing pretty good with that. And I had an opportunity to go to North Carolina Central University, and as a walk-on, I was like 3 seconds off of a time that they wanted me to run in 800 meters. I ran a 2:03. At that time, they said if I can get 2 minutes, he would allow me to come in and give me scholarship money once I got below that. So I thought about it, and at that time, I was coming up in a family, and we was, living in a low income area. So I decided to go into the military and save my parents money, and knowing what I could get out of the military, I could still get educational. That's the route that I took.
That's great. You took a good path. But as far as football coaching here on the peninsula, where have you coached at?
Okay, as far as here on the peninsula, I've coached at Woodside. Danny Dotson, I appreciate him. He brought me on board as a JV coach. I have been there since 2011 coaching for him, coaching at Woodside. All the way up through the past coach that we had was Brett Hall, and now I'm there with Alonzo Coley.
That's great because, Danny was there for 24 years. I was hoping he would have got that 25th year, but he meant so much to that Woodside program. He was a former assistant at Ferguson High School. I'd like to see him back one day being a head coach again. But, it's a funny circle. You look at Grafton, their head coach is the former Warwick coach now, Corey Hairston. And, of course, Tab, their coach used to coach at Menchville. So it's a brotherhood for sure.
Yes, sir. It is. And like I said with Danny, I learned a lot from Danny.
Right.
Danny had a great coaching staff around him. He had Jerome Rose, who's up at War Hill right now. He had Todd. When I came in, Todd, I can't get his last name, but he's up there also. Todd Price, he's also up there at War Hill.
Sure.
And Darryl Freeman, other coaches that was on that staff that helped out a whole lot and educated me more in football, high school football, because that was actually my first time on the high school football level.
Sure.
I started off as JV, and fortunately, when Coach Hall took over, Brett Hall took over, I moved up to the varsity to coach the line, and I'm still coaching the line with Coach Coley, who came from Phoebus High School.
What are some tips for runners out there for indoor and outdoor track, because they're both unique, as far as maybe the hurdles? And what are your thoughts too about that whole baton drama that you saw recently? Because one side is going to say it was by accident, the other side thought it was intentional. Could you tell? I don't know if anybody can really tell. And of course, in the heat of the moment, anything can happen.
Yes, anything can happen. When you look at the picture, it looks like intentional, and then you look at the person, they're very emotional, like they didn't do it. So only person knows is that person with that baton.
Yeah.
We can see things from different angles, and it could look like it's real, and it could look like it's not real. Because when I caught it from a back angle, it seemed like the baton went up under the back shirt and maybe with the speed she had, she could have been trying to catch a balance. But then again, 90% of the time, 90% I think, she may have done it and realized it, and now it's time for accountability.
And that's the good thing about technology. Technology doesn't lie. That's transparency. 30 years ago, it would have been just a still photo, whatever. But regardless, both those young girls have their full future lives ahead of them, and hope they can both learn from this and move on. Because sports and competition, I know when I played tennis, I've had drama. I mean, drama happens in sports, and that's where you want to lay it out on the line, is when you're playing sports as opposed to being in life. But as far as what are your coaching philosophies for your track team? What are you trying to instill? They have to be in shape, number one.
Yes, I try to make sure they're in shape, and I instill their grades. I've always talked about their grades, and I try to hold them accountable for everything they do. So what I try to get them to see is the big picture. After track, there's life. So I tried to be more of a mentor to them at the same time that I'm coaching them, but I'm also coaching them to be winners. So when I coach them, I tell them, I'm giving you the plan, it's up to you to execute it. If you execute the plan, you will win. And I say when it comes to track, you have to have a lot of patience. You're not gonna go from the bottom to the top that quick. You have to work. And it's all about your work ethic. It's all about when we do our drills, the basic things that we do, the technique that you use when you're doing your drills. You have to continue to do that. If you don't, you'll fall back into old ways when you're in a race, and then you risk the chance of losing that race, or risk the chance of getting a slower time when you can get better times.
Sure.
And I always say when you come in to run, if you start off in the 9th grade, and for example, you're running a 200-meter dash in 30 seconds. If every year you're taking a second or two off, you're accomplishing something. And you keep doing it, before you know it, you're gonna be, on the podium with victory. And the thing I like about track, it teaches how to come together as a team and as an individual, because you can win twice. You can win as an individual and also as a team. And what I try to get the kids that win as individuals to do, I try to let them understand that they're still part of a team and we're all trying to do this together.
Right.
Yes.
Very good. Well, David, thank you for enlightening us about track and the military and your career, football as well. And it does take a whole group of people to make a team win. And it's the before and after that's so important. You definitely know about the before and after about life. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Very good. David Gary, head track and field coach at Woodside High School, definitely an asset to the Newport News Public Schools, and also 20 years in the Navy as well. I want to thank our guests for our May show, Trenton Boykin and David Gary, and our wonderful crew here as we dive into spring right here with finally some good warm weather. So for Ray Price, I'm Greg Picaveras. Happy May, and we'll talk to you soon.